Good morning. Welcome to the One Vancouver podcast. I'm your host, Erin Lark, and I'm here today with two wonderful employees of Vancouver. We have Karina Tobin and Dana Selby from our Career and Technical Education Department. Welcome, Karina and Dana.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for being here this morning and coming with us and sharing what I think is often an celebrated part of what our schools can do. I think that often we associate school as something where we have these subjects that we talk about all the way through, and then you go forth into whatever comes next. But there's a lot of work that comes into the what next, and so much of that is housed in your department. So I was wondering if maybe for our audience who has not heard of the career and technical education side of things or didn't have that experience themselves in high school, maybe they did something different with their pathway, if you could kind of share about your roles and what it is you do.
Well, Karina and I split up our big 6 pathways, which come down from the state, and we work to support our teachers in any way we can. We know that for them, their primary focus is the students. Our primary focus is providing the support for them to make sure everything is running smoothly.
It's so true. It could be anything from like the equipment that they need or repairs on technical computer equipment. We get them guest speakers, help them go on field trips. There are just so many different aspects to CTE, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But it's just such a fun department to be a part of too, and I think it's one of those ways that kids can get more hands-on and actually be excited about school again.
I love that. I'm excited just hearing about it because I know all of these phenomenal programs that you're part of, and I know you mentioned the 6 pathways. Would you mind sharing those with us?
Yeah.
So we have skilled and technical, which covers a myriad of things from construction to advanced manufacturing to visual, digital, communications, culinary arts, and
business, marketing, computer science, family and consumer science, STEM. We split both. I'm the middle school STEM and Dana does high school STEM. So we kind of try to split them evenly so that all the teachers feel equal support.
I love that. I'm thinking of all the wonderful careers that fall into those pathways, especially here in Clark County, what we have going on in Washington and beyond where students take that. And I mean, you're covering a wide range of career choices for students. So when you're thinking about career readiness to go forward in one or maybe a few of these that a student is considering, what does the career and technical education do for the student?
Oh gosh, what doesn't it do? I think like we are going away from this everyone needs to go to college and get a 4-year degree aspect that was in play when we were all in school. Mm-hmm. And so it's nice to have all these multiple pathways for them to go out and find a job that they're interested in. So career and technical education gives them that hands-on experience that they can develop those skills and knowledge needed for later in life, whichever career they choose, which I absolutely love. I feel like when I was in school, it was ingrained in me. Like, you have to go to college, you have to get a degree, and this is the path that you're going to take. Whereas now I feel like the world is their oyster, and they can like go out and just choose whatever they want based on their interests. So I think that's amazing.
What I like is that we try to offer our courses in a variety of ways. So we can do online classes. We try to provide a lot of after-school opportunities for the kids. We do have some career academies, so we have our magnet programs that if they have a strong interest. And we have a number of students that get to do apprenticeships and actually get to go to a business and do an experience.
And then later they could actually get paid for that and potentially get hired on by that company. So the fact that that is provided to them, it's like an automatic in for when they are ready.
And that reminds me of some really interesting, exciting legislation that's going through right now to support students doing that and giving yet another opportunity to formalize their education by using an internship to sit for some of those requirements from the state. And that's something that's made all the more accessible to students when they have such a clear, effective set of options that are supported, managed, maintained, accounted for by the district in what you do. So if you, I'm curious, if you had to go back and choose one of the ones that you help right now or support, which of those options would you pick?
If we were to go back into high
If
school?
you, yeah, because you said you're like, well, this wasn't a choice when I was, so I'm curious, which one would you do?
Oh, I would for sure pick audio visual. Yeah. I'm a photographer now,
Which I was not back in high school or college, but it became a path later in life to kind of
develop that creativity within myself. So now I think, knowing what I know, I would go back and take some of those photo and video classes.
That's super cool. Dana, do you think?
I would probably follow about the same path. I actually started to go to college for computer programming and did that a year, and discovered I hated writing code and sitting behind a computer all the time.
Me too. So props to people that do it.
Absolutely. So for me, I figured out a way to pivot, and that's how I got into business and marketing, where I could still teach a little bit about computer programming, but I discovered I really needed that interaction.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I think it's so exciting, and I'm excited to hear what continues to happen. The other great thing that I love about CTE is that it continues to evolve, whereas some of our more traditional general education subjects, math, reading, of course, those are the core of what we do. But it feels like the CTE department develops over time to match what's happening out in the world and make sure students are prepared for that future. So along those lines, I'm wondering, what does it take to support that great of a scope of opportunity? That's a lot of options for students.
Yeah, well, I think, like you said, it's ever evolving. So whatever new technology is out, we rely a lot on the teachers to tell us what's up and coming in their subjects, but also, excuse me,
constantly going to conferences and making sure that we're kind of up to date on up and coming things too.
So the fact that we can split those big 6 pathways in half helps us to kind of concentrate our efforts on where our strengths are. So I feel like Dana does a really good job at the pathways that she's in charge of, and then I can help with the photo, video, digital, the things that I feel more strength with. But making sure that we're definitely listening to our teachers and trusting their judgment and trusting their professionalism, and really listening to what they say and take into account those things that are new in their industry.
I would agree, and I think it also, again, pushes us to continue to learn instead of just sitting in an office. We're like, okay, this is coming up. What do we need to know? What do we need to do to make sure we're prepared to help the teachers and the students?
Yeah, because we know that teachers are the front line, but really we're all here for the students. So whatever the teachers need in order to better support their students is what we want to do.
That is so wonderful to hear, how teacher forward everything you do is, and how you use that to frame the support that you're giving and customize it to the school's need, because who knows the students and their interests and readiness and excitement better than the person who's in front of them every day, trying to make that happen for them. Not an easy job, all of this at all. So I was wondering, what's tough about doing it right?
I think for us, it's sometimes getting what they really need. Especially coming out of COVID, we had things that are on back order, and some of it's been on back order for a year.
Yeah, supply chain.
The supply chain has killed us in some areas as far as trying to make sure we're supporting the way we need to. First year teachers, we have quite a few first year teachers this year, and they're already really inundated with what is TPEP, what are all the things that new teachers do. CTE has its own set of things we have to do. And so time, I think, sometimes is hard for them. And so for us, it's how do we alleviate that stress of needing to put in more time for CTE? Because they love what they do. They love the fact that it's so hands-on, and it's a different way of getting to know students, but there are things they have to do that are a little different sometimes.
I think you made a great point too. A lot of our first year teachers come directly from industry, so they never went through a teacher preparation program. They're coming in with the knowledge of the subject, but not the knowledge of the background of teaching or the etymology or like any of that educanese and acronyms and things that we have just known for years. And so making sure that we're speaking industry to them and speaking plainly to them, but also supporting them in whatever their principal is also giving them at the building level. So it's just that balance of industry versus education and making a perfect marriage of the two.
And meanwhile, making sure that they're there for students and can really support them and help them on their way to their career path. I'm thinking about the hard work that these teachers are doing and how they're really doing all of those pieces that you just said. They're pulling things in from the industry that they know so well. They are also doing the work of teaching whatever a thing may be, which is a lot to that. How do you provide a lesson, and how do you assess, and how do you look at the big scale of a year and make sure a student gets what they need? And then also, how do you get to know the individual student and where they want to go with that future that's in their hearts and in their minds? Can you maybe share a success story of a student or a student that's really, that we've been able to, as a system, with all of the work that CTE does, really make it happen for a student?
So we have a student at one of our high schools that has been in the life skills program, and he has been actively involved in our horticulture program. This year he joined our construction trades program. And one of his struggles was reading. And so both the horticulture teachers and the construction teachers started working on reading skills with him last year. And this year when he came into construction trades, he said, hey, I want to learn how to run the CNC machine and learn how to do the programming of it. And so our construction teachers sat down with him and said, well, we got to be able to read the manual. So they started going through that. The student has now become one of the primary CNC operators, and he can see himself being able to do that when he graduates.
Awesome. I love that, because that provided the meaning. Sometimes as a teacher you hear that question like, when am I going to use this? When am I going to learn this? When we're able to take learning and make it relevant, it can really change the game for some people.
Exactly. No, I was just going to agree with that.
Didn't want to interrupt.
No.
So thinking about those stories and thinking about the fact that you're two people in wanting to help all of the students that are in Vancouver do all of the things they can do, and until one of the students can invent a way for us to clone ourselves. I know that there are always things that we would like to do more of. We keep thinking of more things and how can we do this for students. So I always like to give folks a magic wand. And the magic wand could do anything in education that you would want it to do. You get to choose. So I'm curious, what would your magic wand do?
Unlimited funding and unlimited time.
Tell me about that.
We want teachers to be able to have the most up-to-date equipment and, for example, like this year, our cooking classes, our culinary classes, the price of food has just skyrocketed this year. So our budget from last year does not stretch as far this year. So these teachers are finding grants and other ways to be able to fund their classes that we didn't have to do before, just because our budget allowed us to purchase more for less. But yeah, the unlimited funding would definitely be a nice perk. But the time, they always want time to plan together and to be able to collaborate and work on those lesson plans together, and there just never seems to be enough time. Even in their PLCs, they're just getting started and they're just, finding ways to make great work happen, and then their time is up and they have to go coach a sport or go home to their families. And so it makes it difficult when you're trying to make things happen, but you have a lot of other
things outside going on with your personal life or whatever it may be.
I want you to have that wand for people.
I know.
That sounds magical. I could use it. So in thinking about that, what you talked about, and thinking about what CTE does, what you're trying to do, what you'd like to do down the road as we continue to evolve and grow and change and hopefully get through some of the parts that we can't get in, and the price of food and other things, external things that kind of come in and limit or change what we do. And so we respond to that, because our goal is to make students' dreams come true, make it happen, launch them off into an awesome, successful place. Along those lines, I always like to ask folks, if you could send an audience person, either give them a little piece of advice, something to share, to think about, or send them on an adventure, give them something to do with their thinking, what would you maybe ask them to do?
I think listen to what the student's pathway really is. Don't do like some of us had, is you're expected to go to college. If they really want to explore a trade, let them explore that trade. If they want to go into visual digital arts, help them find that pathway. Some might think of, I just want to go to work and figure out my life. That's okay. Let's give them that freedom to do that. Not try to pigeonhole them in, I think you need to.
I really appreciate that. And I know your students that you're working with appreciate that, listening to students. Thank you so much, Dana and Karina, for sitting down with me this morning. We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having
you.
us.